Hi friends and welcome to the Dakar guide, the ballistic weapons guide for Mechwarrior Online. I'm of course still TTB. Let's talk about first what are Dakar weapons, what are ballistic weapons in Mechwarrior Online. Generally speaking, we're dealing with projectile based or hit scan weapons that are using ammo. What kind of ballistic weapons, what kind of Dakar weapons are available in the game? Glad you asked. Let's head on over to Mech Lab and have a quick look. Over here on the right hand side, there are differences, of course, once again, between Inner Sphere mechs on the one side and clan mechs on the other side. Let's look at Inner Sphere first. We have a variety of autocannons and different other weapons to choose from. Autocannons come in the calibers of 2, 5, 10, and 20, both in the normal variant as well as the ultra variant that allows you to shoot again at the risk of jamming the weapon while you're waiting for the cooldown. You also have LBX autocannons. These are cluster munitions, aka basically your garden variety shotguns, also in the 2, 5, 10, and 20 calibers. Then you have the Rotary autocannons. Think of this as like chain guns. It takes a little bit of time to spin them up, or like a minigun, it takes a little bit of time to spin them up, but once they're spinning, they're shooting up until the point where they go into overheat, and then they overheat and they shut down, and then you have to wait until the weapon is ready to fire again. Then we also have the Gauss rifles, which are kind of a very special weapon because they have basically zero heat development. The ammo for Gauss rifles cannot explode, and they shoot very far, but the Gauss rifles themselves, if they get critically hit, can actually go up in flames and take your side torso or arm with it. And then last but not least, we have, of course, everybody's darling, especially on lights and mediums, the machine guns. Light, heavy, and normal machine guns, differing in the amount of damage they do over time as well as the range they have. Heavy machine guns having the most damage per second at 1.5 at the lowest range. And of course light machine guns having the lowest damage per second of the machine guns at the highest optimal range. Do take note though guys, machine guns, I talked about earlier between projectile based weapons and hit scan weapons. Machine guns are hit scan weapons. That means that it doesn't matter where the projectile animation is going. Machine guns basically behave like lasers. If you're aiming at the target as you're shooting and if it's in range, you are always hitting. Alright, moving on to the clan side of things. Just very quick to showcase what the clans have. They basically have the same things. And I'm gonna go through all of these weapons, of course, in a couple of seconds. But the clans basically have similar weapons. They've got the normal autocannons, they've got their ultra autocannons, they've got a Gauss rifle, they've got LBX autocannons, the shotguns as well, and machine guns. What they do not have are rotary autocannons, and they don't have variety on the Gauss rifles. Inner Sphere has light Gauss, normal Gauss, and heavy Gauss. Clans only get one variety of Gauss rifle. That is still very effective though. Now, let's jump into the game. Let's showcase you guys a couple of these weapons. So you can get an idea of how they look like in game, and we're just going to go to Canyon Network here on the testing grounds. I'm just going to fire them really quickly, because it's important for you guys to understand what's being shot around you and whether you're being hit by an AC2 or an AC20. There's a difference, about 10 times in damage, by the way. Generally speaking, the lower the caliber is, the further the weapon fires. The less damage the weapon does per shot, the further it fires. The only exception for that would probably be the Gauss rifle. So here we have our autocannons. This is the Autocannon 2. Highest range, smallest caliber, highest fire rate, of course. Here's the Autocannon 5. A little bit more thump. Here's the Autocannon 10. A little bit more aggressive sounding, lower rate of fire, lower range, but more damage, of course, per shot. And here's the Autocannon 20. Yeah, if it does boom, that's an AC20. Don't get hit by that. Try and find some cover. Alright, here we have the Ultra Autocannon variety. On the Inner Sphere side, here's the Ultra AC2. And I'm going to double tap it. As the gun goes on cooldown, when the bar goes red, I can shoot again. And there is our jam already. There's a certain percentage chance to jam the weapon, which means it's gonna have some extended cooldown and you just can't shoot as the weapon is jammed. Once again, I'm gonna just attempt to fire the Ultra AC2s as fast as I can. You can see, always double tapping, and now we jammed again. So we have like a trade-off. You do more damage because you can do a double tap versus the normal autocannons, but you have that jam chance to kind of offset and balance it a little bit. Here's the Ultra AC5, and double tapping it. Here's the Ultra AC10. As you can see, the Ultra AC10 actually shoots 2 projectiles. Both of these projectiles do not do 10 damage. Each projectile does 5 damage. So the full salvo from 1 tap does 10 damage. Now we double tap it. And we already jammed. So case in point, jamming can be very, very annoying, especially if you just have one of these weapons. As you can see, we're still jammed. Now we can fire again. I'm going to attempt to double tap. There we go. And we're jammed again. We're having really bad luck with the jams right here. Sometimes I also say the jams are a little bit excessive. Ultra AC-20. 3 projectiles at 6.5 damage each. So as you can see, it's kind of hard to hit small moving targets with an Ultra AC-20 for full damage. Double tapping it now. That would be 40 damage if you can manage to hit everything. So, as you can see, Ultra Autocannons, jam chance on the one side, on the other side you can make some really nice bullet storms happening. For example, UAC 5s and UAC 10s together are really nice. Of course we jammed already, but that's not a problem. Moving on to the LBX autocannons. Alright guys, here we have the LBX autocannons. Now as I said, these are kind of like shotguns, and they also have the added little quirk that they do extra percentage chance to destroy components. Once the armor has been removed, once a LBX autocannon hits structure, there's a higher chance for them to actually destroy components like weapons or heat sinks in the enemy mech. Here's the LB2 AC. I don't think you can see this properly. Let me zoom in. It's shooting 2 projectiles actually. It's shooting 2 projectiles that do 1 damage each. Here's the LB5. Of course, this is shooting 5 projectiles that do 1 damage each. Here's the LB10. Same thing, 10 projectiles that do 1 damage each. And here's the LB20. And as you can see, as always, the higher the caliber, the lower the optimal range. Now let's talk about the Rotary AC2 and Rotary AC5 and the machine guns. Racks or Rotary autocannons, as already mentioned, are only on the inner sphere side. Here's the Rotary AC2. You take note that the bar on the lower right hand corner is going to start to fill. As you can see, there are projectiles being shot. And now we're overheating the rack. We can still fire up to a point where it jams. And then you have to wait for the weapon to cool down and unjam before you can fire again. And we're waiting, and we're waiting, and we're waiting. And anytime now, there we go. Gun's ready to fire again. You can shoot again. That's the Rotary AC2. Here's the Rotary AC5. Slightly lower sounding. Does a little bit more damage, has a little bit less range, of course. Now, do these projectiles do 2 damage per projectile, respectively 5 damage per projectile? No. They are damage over time weapons, so it's important for you to keep your Rotary ACs on your target and hit as much as possible, because the projectiles themselves do not do that much damage. It is just volume over volume through and lots of projectiles do the damage. Machine guns. Here is the light machine gun. Normal machine gun. And here the heavy machine guns. So the deeper it sounds, the bigger the caliber. And as you can see, the light machine gun has almost twice the optimal range as a heavy machine gun. Machine guns, just like the LBX autocannons, the shotguns, are crit-seeking weapons, meaning that as soon as the armor is removed from a mech, they are very fast in finding enemy components and destroying them, therefore rendering the component useless to the enemy. So here's a nice little example. We've got this Cataphract 1X right here. It has, as you can see, a AC-10 right here in the side torso. And we're going to attempt to destroy that AC-10. So first we're going to open up the side torso with the Rotary autocannons. As you can see, there's a little bit of spin-up time before they shoot. Just trying to get, if you look at the right-hand corner, just trying to get his armor off that component. There we go, the armor is off, and now I'm gonna shoot the heavy machine gun. Let's see how long it takes for the AC-10 to break. Boom, it's gone. That was just one heavy machine gun. Most mechs use heavy machine guns or machine guns in general in arrays of 4 to 6 and above. So as you can imagine, once a component is open, we can do this with all the machine guns. Let's just shoot the arm right here. Open that up real quick. Should be a PPC in that arm. Arm is open. Now watch how quick that PPC up top is going to vanish. Gone. Crit-seeking weapons, great for destroying enemy components. As you can see, it took below half a second for that gun to be gone, and that was only 3 machine guns. So really, really nice. Just take care, guys, to always understand you have to open up the armor first. The machine guns themselves against armor. Takes a while. Even against structure, it takes a while. But once the structure is gone, once the armor is gone, you have the underlying structure free. That's where the machine guns shine. Alright guys, here we are with the Gauss rifles. Now the way that Gauss rifles operate is universal among Inner Sphere and clans. Number one, they don't shoot instantly. If you press the firing button, you're charging up the weapon. Once it's charged up fully, you get a green icon or a green bar. It's a yellow bar charging up. As soon as it turns green, also in the pip right next to the crosshair, if it's green, you can fire. There are skills that you can use to make the time that you can fire a little bit longer. And you have to then release the mouse button to fire. So that's one peculiarity of Gauss rifles. They don't shoot on mouse button press, they shoot on charged release. And Gauss rifle projectiles do not generate much heat. On the other side of things, Gauss rifles themselves can explode when they get crit out, but their ammo does not. So you can use Gauss ammo in your mechs to crit pad against machine guns, for example. Now, here's the light Gauss rifle. Once again, it has the highest range or high range and lower damage than the normal Gauss, of course. And heavy Gauss has the lowest range of all the Gauss rifles, but the highest damage in the optimal range of 244 meters. Here's the light Gauss. Nice little yoinking sound. Here's the normal Gauss rifle. Notice the light Gauss sounds more like a whip, wank, whereas the normal Gauss sounds different. And here is the heavy Gauss rifle, optimal range 244 meters. Does 25 damage a pop, which is a lot, but will shake your crosshair. So, if you're shooting a heavy Gauss rifle together with other weapons, make sure to shoot the other weapons first. Let's say, for example, I was shooting it together with the light Gauss rifle. I would shoot like this. That way, you shoot your heavy Gauss last, and you retain your accuracy on target. Never shoot the heavy Gauss first. That's just gonna mess up your shot, right? So don't do that. Also, do take note, you can only fire 2 Gauss rifles at the same time. The game will not let you charge up 3 Gauss rifles at the same time. Only 2. Pressing all 3 buttons, it's only charging up 2 at the same time, as you can see. Yeah, pressing 1, 2, and 3 at the same time, it's only charging up 2. So you can only shoot 2 Gauss rifles at the same time. You can combine that with certain mechs that, for example, have PPCs and heat scale limits. That's okay, but you can only shoot 2 Gauss rifles at the same time. Now, of course, on the Inner Sphere side, heat scale limits play a role as always. There are no heat scale limits for machine guns. There are no heat scale limits for Gauss rifles themselves. But as I said, you can only shoot 2 at the same time. And as soon as you add in a PPC, then heat scale limits may apply to your mech. Let's talk about the normal weapons right here. Let's talk, for example, about AC5. Is there a heat scale limit, you might ask? Well, you can always easily tell. Let me just put in an engine right here, a mock engine, so that we have an engine in our mech. Always watch for that little icon up top. It will tell you if there is a heat scale limit problem. Right now there is none. 4 AC5s, not a problem. What about 5 AC5s, you ask? Still not a problem. 6 AC5. And there you go. As you can see, firing more than 5 AC5s, clan AC5s, UAC5s, or clan UAC5s will result in a heat spike higher than normal. So only if you use 6 AC5s at the same time, you will encounter heat scale limitation. AC10s, limit should be 3 that we can use, and by 4 you will get a warning that says if you fire more than 3 at the same time, you will get a heat spike higher than normal. For AC20s, the limit is 1. As soon as you fire 2 at the same time without having a specific quirk for it, you're going to incur ghost heat as well. However, you can fire 2 LB20s on the Inner Sphere side without ghost heat. Clan side, that is a different story. The heat scale limits for rotary ACs are 3, so rotary AC2s you want to generally use in groups of 3, rotary AC5s you want to use in groups of 2. LB10 heat scale limit is 4, so you can use that as a group of 4, which makes a really, really nice loadout. Moving on to the clan side of things. On the clan side of things, we have very similar weapons, but a couple of smaller differences. We've got AC2s, AC5, AC10, AC20. The same thing for the Ultra Autocannons as well as the LBX shotguns. We only got normal Gauss rifles, no heavy, no light Gauss, no Rotary Autocannons, and machine guns, same as the Inner Sphere side. Let's go ahead and have a look at them, how they look in-game. So here we have our little direwolf with the machine guns and some autocannons. Clan AC2, same thing as Inner Sphere, shoots one projectile. Really nice sniping weapon, has an insane range of almost 1,000 meters right here. Here's the Clan AC5. Still just one projectile. Here's the Clan AC10. And here comes the first peculiarity. Clan AC10 is shooting 2 projectiles at 5 damage each. Kinda similar to the Ultra Autocannon 10 on the Inner Sphere side. And here's the Clan AC20. Actually shoots 3 projectiles like the Inner Sphere Ultra AC20, but cannot be double tapped, of course. And of course, sounds. The deeper the sound goes, the bigger the gun is, but the clan side is a little bit more harder, a lot harder to differentiate, I would say, than the Inner Sphere side. And of course we have machine guns, but they're basically the same, so I'm not gonna showcase them again. It's just light, heavy, and normal machine guns. Alright, here we have the Clan Ultra Autocannons, the Ultra Autocannon 2. And of course double tapping. Here's the Clan Ultra Autocannon 5. As you can see, that's shooting 2 projectiles already. And double tapping. Here's the Clan Ultra AC10. Shooting 3 projectiles now. Can be double tapped, and this time it jammed, of course. And here is the Clan Ultra AC20. Shooting 4 projectiles at 5 damage each. And also can be double tapped, of course. And jammed. The PGI is really doing a bad spot at selling these Ultra Autocannons, right? Alright, and finally guys, we have the LBX autocannons and the Gauss rifle. Here's the Gauss rifle. Same deal. Needs to charge up. And then you shoot when the button is green. Yoink. Then we have the Clan LB2. LB5. LB10. And as you can see, as always, higher caliber means lower range, more damage, and lower sound, sounding a little bit more beefy. Here's the LB20. Now, of course, as always, heat scale limits do apply. For example, 2 Clan LB20s will cause some ghost heat to happen, so you gotta watch out for that. Always look for the little icon and see what it says. A little bit of a caveat here, guys. You can use 4 AC10s on Clan mechs. There is a ghost heat warning, but since the AC10 only generates about 2 heat per shot, the ghost heat is completely negligible. So you can do 4 Clan AC10s on the same mech, alpha striking. There will be some ghost heat, but it's so minute that it doesn't really factor into the equation. Whereas Clan LB20s are 4 heat per shot, and if you alpha strike them together, you will feel the ghost heat. It's not a lot, but if you shoot it a couple of times, 2 or 3 times, it's gonna add up bit by bit. Alright, we've talked about the weapons. Let's talk about how we can improve our Dakar weapons, and that is where the skill tree comes in, because the skill tree has lots of options to improve our weapons. Let us talk first about the specific skills for Dakar weapons. They are in purple right here. We've got Gauss Charge 1 and 2. We've got LBX Spread 1 and 2, we got Magazine Capacity, and we got Enhanced Rack UAC. What do these nodes do? Well, Gauss Charge has 2 points. Every point in Gauss Charge gives you 0.75 extra seconds, where the Gauss rifle can be charged and ready to fire, so it gives you more time to shoot. I recommend always taking the Gauss Charge nodes on any kind of Gauss mech you run. It gives an extra 1.5 seconds to hold and shoot, which can be really, really important when you're trying to line up that perfect shot. LBX Spread will tighten the spread of your LBX autocannon pellets. You can get that up to 10% tighter. I think that's always worth it if you have a build that is focused very much on LBX autocannons. An Enhanced Rack UAC does one thing. It reduces the jam duration on the one side for Ultra autocannons. So if you jam, you can get this down by 15% if you take both nodes. It also improves the jam bar dissipation rate for Rotary autocannons, so it's going to be, if you take both nodes, 15% faster with how the jam bar goes down on your racks on the Inner Sphere side. What else is involved with Dakar weapons, with ballistic weapons? Well, you got the velocity nodes. You can get your projectiles up to 15% faster if you take all 5 velocity nodes. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 down here. You've got heat gen, of course, that will lower the heat per shot that you're making. Cooldown, which will make your weapons fire a little bit faster. You can get that up to, what, 10-ish%. And range, of course, to increase the range of your weapons. The effective range, both the optimal range, where they do full damage, and the maximum range where the damage fall off occurs. For example, here with that LB20XAC, optimal range 360 before skills, max range 720, which is twice optimal range. But as you can see, the damage over here in the graph after optimal range falls off. So at about 500 meters, you're only doing half the amount of damage because the projectiles just lose power the further away they go. How do you counter Dakar? How do you counter ballistic weapons? Don't get hit. It's a directional weapon, it needs to be aimed at you, so there is no counter except not getting hit. So that means use cover, use movement, use jump jets, and try to present yourself as a hard target as hard as possible. And also, I mean, this goes for every build, but twist. Twist, right? Spread your damage. Don't stare at an enemy and just give him one component to shoot. Twist and shoot and twist and shoot and twist and shoot and make the enemy damage all your components as opposed to just damaging one side torso or your CT and just killing you very quickly through that. The other option, or one other option, can be flamers. Overheat the enemy. If it's overheating, they can't shoot back, or at least they can't shoot back as much, but that requires you to use flamers, and you guys know that I'm not a huge proponent of flamers because they're kind of a gimmicky weapon. Now, what else do we need on the skill tree? Very important, before I forget it. For long-range builds, Gauss builds, AC2 builds, Sensors tree, enhanced zoom, or advanced zoom, it's called. Very important, that gets you a lot closer to your target when you're zooming in. It makes hitting shots at 1000 meters plus a lot easier, just like, for example, on the ER large laser builds that we did in the other guide. Outside of the skill tree, you can use targeting computers to help your Dakar, your ballistic weapons as well. As you can see, targeting computers will actually impact both projectile speed and critical chance, so that is something that you can use to get your projectiles a little bit of extra speed, but I would not recommend to use huge targeting computers for that. I would just recommend get a targeting computer Mark 1 maybe, if you have an extra ton to spare. Alright, let's talk about weapon synergies. What do ballistics weapons synergize with very well? Do a couple of showcases. Let's look at machine guns first. What do machine guns synergize very well with? Well, let's take a Piranha, for example. Let's take this Kid Fox right here, which is one of the newer mechs that came in not too long ago. This is what we call the Murder Fox. Heavy machine guns and small pulse lasers. The mech is using short-range weapons. The small pulse lasers are very good at opening up components, and the heavy machine guns then crit out the internals once the structure is laid bare. Doesn't look like much, but the firepower is immense. You can actually scare away assault mechs with this at close range when they can't really hit you properly. Another interesting synergy, for example, is AC-10s and PPCs, or ER-PPCs, or light PPCs. One example would be this mech right here. Warhammer, for example. You can do light Gauss rifles and ER-PPCs as a combo. You can do AC-10s and ER-PPCs, or light PPCs and AC-10s. They work very well together because the AC-10s have a very similar speed to the projectile speed of the ER-PPC. The best sync up, however, is that you get with Gauss rifles, so ER-PPCs and Gauss, or ER-PPCs and light Gauss together. Again, always watch the ghost heat indicator. Some mechs allow you to shoot ER-PPCs and Gauss rifles at the same time without incurring ghost heat. One example would be the Marauder 4L, which is the Marauder 2. So, for example, this Marauder 2 right here has an ER-PPC heat scale limit +2, and that is shared with Gauss rifles. So that means that you can shoot 2 Gauss rifles and 2 ER-PPCs on top, making this insane sniper build really, really powerful. It doesn't incur ghost heat, 2 ER-PPCs and 2 Gauss rifles. The projectile speed is very close together, like within like a margin of like 5 to 10%, hitting pinpoint at ranges of 900 meters. Really strong, really, really nice combo. Then we already mentioned rotary autocannon combos, either rack 5 in a group of 2, or of course rack 2s in a group of 3. Those will be always working very nicely together. And then of course, classic brawler builds, guys. AC20, for example, or LB20s can be combined with so many things. You can combine them with, for example, snub-nosed PPCs if you want a brawler, like for example this King Crab right here, double AC20, triple snub-nosed PPCs, pinpoint, really high damage value. The reason why we have double AC20 here is because the King Crab, quadruple 0 actually, has a quirk that allows us to shoot both AC20s without ghost heat. Once again, no warning indicator up here. And then of course I mentioned classic brawlers. Let's take for example this Atlas 7S right here, LB20 or AC20, quadruple SRM6 with Artemis, and a snub-nosed PPC. Really nice and dangerous alpha strike. You can just remove the snub nose and go for a little bit of extra engine size and or cooling of course, but generally speaking, AC20, AC10 and combined with SRMs, always a really nice combo to run. And of course, there's a really nice combo that you can do with Gauss rifles or light Gauss rifles and MRMs. For example, here on this Atlas DDC, ECM, double MRM30, double light Gauss rifles. Really nice combo that hits hard and doesn't generate much heat. Especially the Gauss rifles, they're basically heat neutral, right? 0.55 heat per projectile. It's nothing. One more point I want to touch on is a long-range Dakar. Specifically, the classic AC2 Dakar. There are people out there that will say the best way to shoot long range is Ultra AC2s, for example on the clan side, or LB2Xs. If we compare the ranges, LB2X will have a maximum range of 1800 before skills, Ultra AC2s will have a maximum range of 1600 before skills, and the AC2s also 1800 before skills. And some people like to use LB2s because they say once they kill the armor, then they are going to crit out the structure at sniper range. Other people really like to use Ultra AC2s as a long-range sniper tool, which can be viable. I would recommend you only use AC2s. The Ultra AC2s with the double taps, they generate too much heat, and they're unreliable because they can jam, leading you to shoot lots of projectiles at the enemy and not pinpointing your shots as well anymore. And the LB2s at over 1000 meters, remember it's 2 projectiles and they're spread out, so you might hit the left leg and the right arm. So I do not recommend LB2s for sniping as well. I recommend just use the AC2s that gets you the pinpoint 2 damage exactly where you need to be. For example, on this ultraviolet mobile oppression palace that shoots 8 AC2s at a range of almost 1000 meters with skills. Pinpoint, no issues whatsoever. This thing rules at long range. Alright guys, I hope that was helpful to you. This was the Ballistics guide. If you're interested in more Mechwarrior Online guides, just check out the playlist. It's also going to be linked in the video description below. Of course, that will teach you, for example, how to use energy weapons, how to use missile weapons, or for example, how to build your mechs to deal against LRMs, long-range missiles on the enemy team. There's also a Mech Lab guide for how to build your mechs, and of course a skill tree guide on how to skill any mech in the game. Guys, if you'd like to support my work, then check out either the join button right here on YouTube, or check out the various options in the video description below. This has been TTB. Have a good one.